Blackburn 1, Brighton 1, and in Division 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Forest 2, Derby 2, Luton 3, and it's still Welling 0, Darlington 0. And elsewhere, Liverpool have scored 6 against Coventry. They lead 6-1. John Barnes has got a hat-trick. Great news that for England and Bobby Robson. And that was a lengthy delay here. Much talking going on between referee and George Lawrence. And now we have a throw for Cadet from O'Driscoll. Cadet trying to turn Vinnie Jones. He scampers away from Vinnie Jones. He's immediately confronted by Haddock. The ball breaks for Strachan. Oh, and Strachan is bobbing and weaving his way back towards Mervyn Day, and he gives it back to his goalkeeper.
Sensible stuff by Gordon Strachan, really. The onus is on Bournemouth to get back into it. They gained possession. Leeds. Gordon Strachan could have tried a risky ball out of defence, but he just knocked it back. And as I say, Mervyn Day took his time, and really Leeds just waiting for the seconds to tick away. And Bournemouth, of course, needing, with Middlesbrough now 3-1 up, they do need to score 2 goals.
Right, we must correct a score for you. It is Sheffield Wednesday 0, Nottingham Forest 2. 2 goals from Stuart Pearce at Hillsborough for Nottingham Forest. So Wednesday really with plenty to do now, with the news that Luton, in that topsy-turvy game at Derby, are leading by 3 goals to 2. That's the big one in the First Division, the big issue there, the only issue now really still to be decided. Here on this last Saturday of the season in sparkling sunshine, Leeds United are 15 minutes away from a return to the First Division, and a free kick is aimlessly taken by Peter Haddock and drifts disappointingly out of play just down below for a Bournemouth throw-in. But they can't exert enough pressure, Bournemouth, here on the Leeds defence. As hard as they try, they're not really penetrating in the last 18 yards, and Leeds win the ball back again on this left-hand side. Good work by Carl Shutt. It's tight for Vinnie Jones. Then a good run helps him out from Jim Beglin, halfway inside the Bournemouth half. Beglin gets across him, but Kedden Bond is there for Bournemouth. And Cadet slips over the ball, presents it to Haddock, and Haddock puts in a strong run for Leeds United, and then as O'Driscoll came in to tackle, Haddock, with no malice at all on that occasion, was at full stretch, and technically he did catch the player. So the referee awards the free kick to Bournemouth, and it's a long one from Paul Miller. So Lee Chapman has scored the all-so-important goal here for Leeds United. 5 minutes into the second half. They are now getting closer and closer to Division 1. The latest score here is Bournemouth 0, Leeds 1.
We're just back in the studio briefly to give you news of what's happening elsewhere, because obviously a day of decision for a great many clubs. As Mike was saying, it's Bournemouth 0, Leeds 1, and Sheffield United, it seems, are certain to be in the First Division next season because they're 4-2 up at Leicester, and it looks like Newcastle are consigned to the playoffs, 3-1 down at Middlesbrough. Sunderland 1, Oldham 2, so Oldham still hanging on to those hopes of a playoff place. Stoke 1, Swindon 1, Blackburn 1, Brighton 1. In the First Division, it's Sheffield Wednesday 0, Nottingham Forest 2, and Derby 2, Luton 3. So if that stays that way, Luton are safe, Sheffield Wednesday go down. Liverpool have scored 6 against Coventry. They're 6-1 up at the moment. And it's Norwich 2, Arsenal 2, Alan Smith an equaliser. And Everton 2, Villa 3 now, Tony Daly. And Crystal Palace 2, Manchester City 1, a penalty from Clive Allen. It's Sunderland 1, Oldham 3 now, and Roger Palmer has scored for Oldham. In the Third Division, it's still Bristol City 2, Walsall 0, and it's Bury 2, Cardiff 0, so Bury guaranteed a place in the playoffs. What's most interesting there at the moment, though, will it be Birmingham or Bolton that go into the playoffs? Big problems at St Andrews, Birmingham against Reading. There's been a crowd invasion, and the players are now off the pitch at St Andrews. In the Fourth Division, it looks like Maidstone are going up at the first time of asking. They're 5-1 up on Carlisle, and that result, in fact, could scotch Carlisle's hopes of a place in the playoffs. Peterborough 1, Southend 2, Aldershot 0, Cambridge United 1, Chesterfield 1, Grimsby 0 still. So very much all to play for in the Fourth Division. So you're bang up to date with the top and the bottom of those divisions. Obviously, we'll go back now to Dean Court for the closing stages. Actually, just before we do that, they've restarted now at St Andrews between Birmingham and Reading. Goalless there. And Birmingham, either they or Bolton go into the playoffs. And if it stays that way, it looks as though Bolton, or Birmingham rather, will be the side to be competing for a place in the Second Division next season. Talking about the second and sides going up to the first, looks like Leeds United. Back to Mike Ingham.
And you haven't really missed very much action here, because during that period with John, we had an injury here to the unfortunate George Lawrence. He's okay though, and he continues here for Bournemouth. We have 12 minutes left of normal time here. And Lee Chapman, who scored vital goals last season in cup football for Nottingham Forest to help them towards the Littlewoods Cup and the Seamod Cup, has now turned his attention to trying to get Leeds back in the First Division with important league goals, and well, just about the most important league goals he's ever scored perhaps so far, divides these two teams at Dean Court as Bournemouth try to prize an opening. Cadet the lone runner, and nobody back for Leeds, so Mervyn Day had to come very swiftly out of his penalty area and play it back down into the Bournemouth half, and there's just a little hint, a little air of desperation now about the Bournemouth play as they hit the ball again into the Leeds half. A good work by Vinnie Jones, the two number 4s there in the air. Jones against Shearer. Haddock now has to tidy up on the edge of the area, and there's a little bit too much pushing going on there by Richard Cadet. That's going to be a free kick to Leeds.
Well, Leeds, who do work their offside trap extremely well today, just on the last few minutes, it's caught Bournemouth out a couple of times. Just that last one, Mervyn Day reading the situation well, and came 20 yards out of goal, hooked it clear, and now in possession of it when it came back through, and really just throwing the ball out, getting those extra seconds to tick away, I think, Mike, and at the moment quite happy for it to stay 1-0, I'm sure.
Mervyn Day, Dave Besant style, coming right out of his area. Sure, he didn't used to do that when he played with Trevor's team in the mid-70s, or did he, for West Ham? Can you remember him coming all that way out of the penalty area as an extra defender?
He didn't take any chances with our defence. He stayed as near to his goal as he did.
Oh, well, we remember him, of course, well, playing in the final against Fulham. He's nearly 35, Mervyn Day, since he left Upton Park. He had a spell with Aston Villa. Now he could be back in the First Division again if it stays like this. Leeds lead 1-0. Sheffield United lead 4-2 at Leicester. And Middlesbrough 3, Newcastle 1 is the latest score at Ayresome Park. They're the three big scores in the Second Division. And the ball here is with Jerry Payton in the green jumper and the red Bournemouth shorts, kicking from left to right. 3 or 4 players miss it inside the Leeds half. A spectacular interception in the air by Chris Fairclough, the former Forest and Spurs player. Clattered forward by Mel Sterland. Could be a chance here for Carl Shutt if he can get goal side of Paul Miller. But Paul Miller just did enough there to put Carl Shutt off. Leeds are appealing for the corner kick off Miller, but the referee says that Shutt got the last touch. So that is going to be a goal kick only for Jerry Payton to take. Jerry Payton, who may suffer today the anxiety of going down with Bournemouth, but he possibly has a World Cup to look forward to with Jack Charlton's Republic of Ireland, of course, playing their matches in England's group next month. We have just entered the last 10 minutes here at Dean Court. All the songs are emanating from that open end, away to our right, the Brighton beach end. All those Leeds fans, 2,500 of them there, looking at their watches, aware of what's going on elsewhere, and watching Bournemouth happily from their point of view having to defend again on the edge of the penalty area, and it's just trundled back again from O'Driscoll to that man Jerry Payton. Payton's kick towards the far side, looking for Lawrence. It comes back to the halfway line and played back by Kevin Bone to the far side. And we have remarkable news coming in now from Hillsborough, because Forest lead 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. Nigel Jemson, whose goal won Forest the Littlewoods Cup last Sunday, he's made it 3-0. Surely Forest are going to win that game now. And if Luton can hang on at Derby, they lead by 3-2, then Luton will have escaped. It'll be shades of what they did, I remember, a few seasons ago under David Pleat when they went to Manchester City and pulled off a remarkable result to stay alive. So Luton look as if they can hang on, they'll stay in the First Division. Sheffield Wednesday might go down. So although it could be an excellent day for Yorkshire with Leeds and Sheffield United going up, Sheffield Wednesday might be dropping out of the First Division. And Welling 0, Darlington 1 is the latest score. Gary Copeworth has scored for Darlington, and that's the goal which could put Darlington back in the Football League. It's a corner for Leeds here. It's headed over by Vinnie Jones, though, following a Gordon Strachan corner. And the pace has inevitably here, Trevor, just dropped a little, I think, in the last 10 minutes because of the heat. That's not surprising, is it really?
Well, I think it's the heat, and probably players, even Bournemouth, have a sort of feeling about scorelines, and they might well know now that Middlesbrough are ahead and will know that they need 2 goals. And I can't, in all honesty, and really throughout the match, they haven't looked dangerous, and I can't see them getting 2 goals there.
Leeds are on the break again on the near side, and Speed's cross comes in, and it's taken by goalkeeper Jerry Payton as the crowd in the main stand up, because just while Speed was progressing down there, Howard Wilkinson was off his bench remonstrating with Luther Blissett for a challenge on one of his Leeds players. Still the supporters are on their feet. Happily I can just see the ball down below, and I see that Paul Miller, the centre half from Bournemouth, who once played against Leeds in a playoff final for Charlton for a place in the First Division. Leeds didn't make it on that occasion, but looks like they might be getting the better of Paul Miller's team today. They lead 1-0, and from the free kick, Trevor Aylott looks for Luther Blissett. That was a tired challenge, though, by Luther Blissett, and Leeds are on the rampage again through speed. It comes back in towards the centre circle. Vinnie Jones competes in that centre circle, and Vinnie Jones has won a free kick. Disputing possession there with Sean Brooks, and Bournemouth do now just look a little weary. At the moment they're on their way down with Stoke and Bradford, unless we have a miracle here, unless they can come from behind and score 2 goals in the last 6 minutes, because it looks like surely now Middlesbrough, leading 3-1 against Newcastle, are going to win that game. They've had 2 goals in the second half from Ian Baird and 1 from Bernie Slavin. Leeds took plenty of time getting that free kick sorted out. Eventually they do work the ball up towards the penalty area, and Bournemouth central defenders pile in against Carl Shutt, and Shutt's been penalised anyway, and Bournemouth roll the free kick back again to number 1, Jerry Payton. Payton's kick. Vinnie Jones is underneath it, gets a bit too much underneath it as well, heads it straight up in the air. 2 Bournemouth players get in each other's way in the centre circle. Then Chris Kamara tries to brush forward and might beat the offside try. He's going for it, but the run from the halfway line. Kamara's in the penalty area. Can he squirt this one back? He hits the side netting, and that was a really strong run by Kamara, almost from the halfway line, almost a spectacular second.
That's the way to break offside traps, run with the ball, and nearly broke clear. He was being harassed all the way by Sean Brooks, and he lined himself up 2 or 3 occasions, and probably left it then too late and put it behind the side netting, but probably could have hit it with about 15 yards out, taking a chance then, really.
We've only had 1 goal here so far in this game. What a decisive one it could be from Lee Chapman, 5 minutes into the second half. There have been plenty of goals in the 2 other matches that matter so much in Division 2. We'll be going to one of those games in just a few minutes, but with Leeds putting pressure on again over on the far side. Strachan involved and looking to try and get a cross in here from Carl Shutt, perhaps on the right-hand side. Leeds perhaps caught in 2 minds. Do they hold on, or do they go helter-skelter for a second? Well, in the end, Shutt beaten there by fatigue. The ball is out of play, and we are now going to go to the Midlands. The location is Leicester's Filbert Street, and the reporter is Ron Jones.
Just over 5 minutes to go. It's Leicester City 2, Sheffield United 5, and United pretty well certain to go back into the First Division. Certainly their fans think that way. They're all standing. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of crowd trouble too in the main stand behind us. All that is very unfortunate on what is a great day for Sheffield United. Their 5th goal, Tony Ogana got his 2nd of the match, through all on his own. Mark North, the deputy goalkeeper, who's keeping goal because Martin Hodge didn't appear after half-time, after his injury. Apparently from the dressing room, the news is that he was concussed in the first half. So Sheffield United then clear now on their way into Division 1 after a 14-year absence. It's Leicester City 2, Sheffield United 5.
Well, I was with Sheffield United on Tuesday night when they might have made sure, but they couldn't beat Blackburn. They were very disappointed that evening, but looks like they've done it. And here the photographers already gathering around Howard Wilkinson's bench down there below. They seem to think that Leeds United are going to make it, and they want the pictures of Howard Wilkinson. While you were away, by the way, Lee Chapman had a chance to make absolutely certain here. He went through with the goalkeeper to beat, but Jerry Payton, who's had a really good game in that Bournemouth goal, somehow kept it out, and so it is still 1-0. But remember, Lee Chapman did get the goal that matters 5 minutes into the second half.
Yes, that was a goal, and a second one then, of course, because really now, without seeing Bournemouth getting 2 goals, what really Leeds want to do is make sure that they end up as champions, go up in the First Division, and in these last closing minutes they don't want to concede 1 goal, let alone 2, so they can, as I say, go back to the First Division and win that championship.
Well, Oldham still with an outside chance of the playoffs, leading Sunderland now 3-2. Armstrong has pulled a goal back for Sunderland at Roker Park, and Middlesbrough 4, Newcastle 1 is now the latest score. Bernie Slavin has scored his 2nd goal, and Leeds United know that, certainly their supporters do. And Speed's cross is headed away by Kevin Bond. Howard Wilkinson was saying in the week that he didn't want any scores being relayed to his players. They will surely, though, be aware now that Middlesbrough are leading 4-1 against Newcastle. And here we have a Bournemouth breakaway. It's Aylott and Lawrence, and it's a total misunderstanding. And Leeds United again bring the ball clear. They're happy this time, though, just to help the ball into the Bournemouth half and make Paul Miller chase. And Paul Miller turns it back to the goalkeeper, Jerry Payton. Well, we began here 3 minutes late at 3 minutes past 3, so games are starting to finish all around the country, and we're going to take you to some of them now, to Larry Canning at Derby.
Derby 2, Luton 3, and that means that Luton stay up. With 15 minutes left for play, Kingsley Black, who'd been a thorn in the Derby side all through the second half, got himself into the box and hit a shot in off a post to claw Luton back into a lead which they had lost with the last kick of the first half. Tim Breaker had given Luton a shock lead with a 30-yard free kick in the first minute. Ian Downey made it 20 minutes later, but Mark Wright and Paul Williams scored to level matters at the break. Then after a spirited second half, Kingsley Black came up with the winner, and on the strength of this game they thoroughly deserved it. Derby 2, Luton 3.
Here at Bournemouth with a little over a minute to go, Leeds perhaps going to make another substitution. David Batty, number 14, is down there trying to come on. One or two Leeds players have rolled their stockings down in the heat here. David Batty is poised to come on, but there may not even be time for him. They lead by 1-0, and now let's find out whether Luton Town are going to stay in the First Division by going to Hillsborough and Alan Biggs.
Sheffield Wednesday 0, Nottingham Forest 3, and numb disbelief here at Hillsborough. Sheffield Wednesday are relegated. An afternoon of torture and despair for Ron Atkinson and a crowd of nearly 30,000. The ground abuzz here with scores from Derby, some hopeful, some disappointing, some false, like the word a few minutes ago that Derby had equalised. Those cheers subsided, while all the while Wednesday, who needed a point here to be sure of staying up, wasted chance after chance. Nottingham Forest took theirs, 2 from Stuart Pearce, the other from Nigel Jempson. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Nottingham Forest 3.
A great escape act then by Luton Town, who stay in the First Division. Sheffield Wednesday will not be playing Sheffield United in the First Division. David Batty has just come on as a Leeds substitute. He's replaced Carl Shutt. He's almost through there, but Bournemouth just take it away from him. We're approaching added time here at Dean Court. There will be stoppage time to be added on for Jim Beglin's injury, but they finished at Ayresome Park, and here's Peter Slater.
It's finished Middlesbrough 4, Newcastle United 1. Second half goals for Middlesbrough from Slaven in 59 minutes, Baird in 65. Newcastle pulling one back, an own goal from McGee on 69, but Baird with a lovely volley on 75 minutes made it 3-1. And in time added on, Proctor shot hit the post and Bernie Slaving knocked it in. 18,500 here. Middlesbrough 4, Newcastle 1.
So now Leeds United just have to hang on to what they've got. A 1-0 lead, and the final whistle goes at Dean Court, and Leeds United are the Second Division champions. They have beaten Bournemouth by 1-0. There are spectators all over the centre circle. Leeds United are back in the First Division after an 8-year absence, and poor old Bournemouth go down to Division 3. Good afternoon from Dorset.
Mike Ingham and Trevor Brooking at Dean Court today. What drama. Amazing stuff, right down to the wire. And as we know now, Sheffield Wednesday relegated, Luton are safe. We know that Leeds and Sheffield United are both up to the First Division. Newcastle will have to play in the playoffs. Who will be there with them? Sunderland against Oldham at Roker Park. George Bailey.
And the final score at an exciting Roker Park is Sunderland 2, Oldham 3, and quite the most exciting end of the season match I've seen in years. And truthfully, this for both clubs may not be the end of the season. The playoffs beckon for both. Oldham always looked dangerous going forward, with Ritchie leading the line magnificently, and they scored the first to a 3-header from Neil Adams 26 minutes into the match. The equaliser from Hours coming on 37 minutes, and then right on 45 minutes, Rhodes saved a penalty from Hardyman, a marvellous save that. Ritchie made it 2-1 in the second half, and Roger Palmer put the result beyond doubt on 77 minutes with a close-in header. And while Armstrong got Sunderland a second, Oldham kept their nerve. 22,243, and most of them now, I'm pleased to say, are on the pitch cheering the Oldham support. It's been a marvellous game. Sunderland 2, Oldham 3.
Getting the calculators out here. Let's go to Stoke quickly. Pat Murphy.
Stoke 1, Swindon 1. Ellis for Stoke, Shearer for Swindon. 2 goals in a minute. Swindon paralysed Stoke in the second half. They really could have scored about 6. The most remarkable sight now, about 500 Stoke supporters are separated from Swindon fans by just police and dogs. They're applauding each other from a distance of about 40 yards. Stoke 1, Swindon 1.
At Ewood Park is Jimmy Armfield.
Blackburn 1, Brighton 1. Blackburn made the playoffs for the third successive time, but frankly, this wasn't one of the better afternoons. Andy Kennedy gave Rovers a 52nd minute lead, but within 3 minutes, Kevin Bremner equalised for Brighton, and towards the close, it was the Rovers fans who were encouraging the final whistle. The attendance, 9,283, Blackburn 1, Brighton 1.
And quickly to Filbert Street, Ron Jones.
We're in time, added on for injuries. It's Leicester 2, Sheffield United 5. No doubt that United are back in the First Division after a 14-year absence. Goals from Paul Wood, Brian Deane, Tony Agana 2 and Will Frostron giving them their 5 goals after Gary Mills had given Leicester City an early lead. Mark North getting the other one. Leicester goalkeeper Martin Hodge didn't reappear for the second half. He was concussed in the first when he was also off for 5 minutes. All the Sheffield United supporters now waiting to invade the pitch. A huge crowd of police all around the ground. Sheffield United back in the First Division. Leicester 2, Sheffield United 5.
Right, let's calm things down briefly at the top of the First Division. Some of the matches which are of significance to those clubs but obviously don't affect top and bottom. The champions Liverpool out with a bang. 6-1 winners at Coventry. Rush, Barnes with 3, Rosenthal with 2. Crystal Palace 2, Manchester City 2, Palace were 2 goals up. Great game at Goodison to finish the season off. Everton 3, Villa 3, Cascarino, Cowans and Daly for Villa. Poynton, Newell and Sheedy with a penalty for Everton. Manchester United have beaten Charlton by 1-0 through Gary Pallister. Millwall 1, Chelsea 3, Kerry Dixon a hat-trick. Norwich 2, Arsenal 2, Queen's Park Rangers 2, Wimbledon 3, a late goal decisive there. And Spurs finished 3rd in the First Division this season. They've beaten Southampton by 2-1. Paul Stewart and Paul Allen, their goal scorers. Into the Second Division, it's Bradford 0, Plymouth 1, Oxford 0, Port Vale 0, Portsmouth 2, Barnsley 1, Watford 3, Hull 1, West Brom 1, Ipswich 3, too little, too late for them though, and the same goes for West Ham. They've thrashed Wolves 4-0, but they missed the boat. Oldham have missed out after that great season they've had. I'm afraid they will not be in the playoffs. All that's decided now in the Second Division. Newcastle, Sunderland, Swindon and Blackburn. So then, to the Third Division. We're still waiting to find out who the champions will be. It was a late kick-off at Blackpool against Bristol Rovers because of so many people trying to get in. At the moment, at least as far as we know, Rovers are still a goal up. Birmingham 0, Reading 0, and the other match of significance there is Swansea 0, Bolton 0, and a quick bit of maths means that Bolton are in the playoffs. Bristol City 4, Walsall 0, Bury 2, Cardiff 0, Crewe 3, Wigan 2, Fulham 1, Leyton Orient 2, but Fulham are safe because of that Cardiff defeat. Huddersfield 4, Chester 1, Notts County 4, Mansfield 2, Rotherham have beaten already relegated Northampton 2-0, Shrewsbury 2, Preston 0, and Tranmere 2, Brentford 2. We're getting the calculators on working out who's been relegated there, but I've got a feeling it's Cardiff City who go down to the 4th Division. Into the 4th then, Aldershot 0, Cambridge United 2, Colchester 1, Burnley 2, Halifax 1, Stockport 2, Lincoln City 1, Exeter the champions 5, Maidstone 5, Carlisle 2, great result for Maidstone that, Peterborough 1, Southend 2, they get promoted, Rochdale 5, Hereford 2, Scarborough 0, Gillingham 1, Scunthorpe 4, Doncaster 1, Torquay 1, York 1, Wrexham 1, Hartlepool 2. Into Scotland, a result concerning St Mirren and Dundee United. That was goalless, and that means that Dundee United qualify for a place in the UEFA Cup, and for the first time in 13 seasons, Celtic will not be playing in Europe next year. Also in the Scottish Premier, Dundee 1, Motherwell 2, Dunfermline 1, Hibs 1, and Hearts 1, Rangers 1. The one late kick-off we're still waiting for is Blackpool and Bristol Rovers, and the result of that will determine who are the champions in the 3rd Division. We know, though, I think that Darlington are into the Football League, having won the GM Vauxhall Conference by a single goal. So even though Barnet have won at Chorley, Darlington, at the first time of asking, are back in the Football League. Congratulations to them. I dare say we hope to be talking to their manager, Brian Little, later on in Sports Report. We can quickly actually go, having said that, to Welling, where I think Rob Hawthorne is joining Darlington celebrations.
Yes, the celebrations in full flow here, John. Masses of highly spirited fans who've made the journey down from the northeast to North Kent have gathered below the press box there, waiting in fact for the emergence of Brian Little, the manager, and they're going to present him with the trophy, which fortunately was here today. There was an anxious second half here when news filtered through of Barnet's lead, but Gary Coatsworth won the match for Darlington with a header 3 minutes from time. The final score, Welling 0, Darlington 1.
They're still getting the maths out on the 4th Division, so let's quickly change tack and go to today's 2,000 guineas. It seems that Machiavellian only had to turn up to win the 2,000, but as Peter Bromley describes in the closing stages, it wasn't to be.
Here comes Tyrrell with a run to take the lead from Anshan into the dip, and it's Tyrrell in the lead. Machiavellian's making good progress. Then Septian Fiel onto the rising ground, and Tyrrell is up to his task. Tyrrell is holding Machiavellian, but Machiavellian is closing. Tyrrell for England now. Tyrrell going on by half a length. Tyrrell by a length and a half. Tyrrell wins it. Machiavellian in second. Anshan is third.
A great day for the Irish and the Horgan family. Tyrrell 9-1 the winner. Machiavellian the 6-4 favourite. Anshan third at 6-1. And Michael Kinnan found an incredible path through the field to make his challenge. On the other hand, Freddie Head on Machiavellian had terrible traffic problems. And in fact, when Tyrrell had really made for home, Machiavellian was chasing him. There was a steward's inquiry, but the result was not affected. Tyrrell clocked 1 minute 35.84 seconds, and that's an electric course record. The previous record, set in 1948, was handheld. And so the homebred Tyrrell by the Coolmore stud stallion Thatching, and bred by the winner of the late Dick Peacock, who trained up at Middleham, has put 7 American-bred horses in their place. Anshan was a courageous third. Rock City, yet another Richard Hannon runner, was fourth. That means 3 homebred horses in the first 4, a good result for British and Irish breeding.
So the Twickenham, the Pilkington Cup final, and I think the score just about says it all. An astonishing match. Bath 48, Gloucester 6. Ian Robertson.
Yes, Bath began the season with a shock defeat against Gloucester in September, and they suffered 2 more league defeats at Nottingham and Saracens. But today they put all that disappointment behind them and produced the most impressive club performance of the season to win the Cup for the 6th time in 7 years by a record score and a record margin. The greater experience of the Bath side, which included 11 international players, was all too much for a brave but outclassed Gloucester team, and hard graft and good tackling were never going to be enough to hold Bath. In the end, Bath won by 8 tries to 1. Withy, Guscott, Callard and Swift scored 4 in the first half. Swift again, Daw, Redman and Ubogu got 4 in the second half. Barnes kicked 2 penalties and 4 conversions, and Halliday, who announced his retirement officially after the match, kicked the last conversion. All Gloucester could manage was 1 try by Dunn, converted by Tim Smith. And if the record defeat wasn't bad enough for Gloucester, they suffered further humiliation when flanker John Gadd was sent off for stamping on a Bath player at a ruck in the second half. The day and the Cup go to Bath.
Southend are definitely promoted from the 4th division to the 3rd. Congratulations to them. We rather condemned Celtic before, or rather a week early. They can still play in Europe next year, but they do have to beat Aberdeen in the Cup next week to go through to the Cup Winners' Cup. But they cannot go into the UEFA Cup on the strength of their performance in the Scottish Premier League. Now then to Cardiff, the Schweppes Welsh Cup final. Leith 16, Bridgend 10, much as expected, but a game marred by a sending off. David Parry-Jones.
Well, Barry John needs jubilation tempered by sadness in this final.
Yes, another poor final as far as the Welsh rugby followers are concerned. 16-10 to Neath, yes, deservedly so. I would imagine the most relieved person in the stadium, certainly in the Neath camp, Andrew Kembury, who was sent off midway through the second half, and really it should have proved decisive. Immediately after that, Arlett Williams dropped his second goal to bring Bridgend back into the game, but unfortunately for them, neither Williams nor his forwards were able to claim enough possession to dictate possession for that vital quarter, and therefore at the end of the day, one must say hands up. 14-man Neath at the end just about deserved to hang out.
Barry John and David Parry-Jones at Cardiff. Congratulations then to Neath. And Bristol Rovers, congratulations to them. They are the 3rd division champions, having won 3-0 today. And congratulations really to the city of Bristol, because Bristol City are the runners-up. Now, some golf news. In the Benton and Hedges International, Mark McNulty of Zimbabwe, on 8 under par, is the leader of the field after 2 rounds, by 1 stroke from Ronan Rafferty and Jose Maria Olathable and Richard Boxall. And the new leader in the badminton 3-day event is Claire Bowley on fair share after today's cross-country stage. It's 5 o'clock, and that's Sports Report. Listening to Sports Report on National Radio 2. Good evening, I'm John Inverdale. On the final Saturday of the Football League season, our headlines: Leeds and Sheffield United are promoted from the 2nd to the 1st division as they both win away, but Sheffield Wednesday are relegated. They crashed 3-0 at home to Nottingham Forest as Luton snatch a dramatic victory 3-2 at Derby. That win for Leeds, against a backdrop of serious crowd trouble outside the ground, means that Bournemouth are relegated from the 2nd to the 3rd as Middlesbrough beat Newcastle. Oldham's season ends in bitter disappointment. They can't reach the playoffs as Swindon and Blackburn both get a point. In the 4th Division, Southend are promoted and Darlington has jumped straight back into the Football League after winning the Vauxhall Conference title. Other football headlines include Liverpool hitting Coventry for 6 and Spurs finishing 3rd in the 1st Division. Bath annihilate Gloucester by a record-breaking 48-6 in the Pilkington Cup final, and Gloucester's John Gadd is sent off. Meath beat Bridgend 16-10 in the Schweppes Cup final, and they also have a player sent off. The 9-1 shot Tyrrell outpaces the favourite Machiavellian to win the 2,000 guineas, another big race triumph for trainer Richard Hannon. Jeremy Bates and Andrew Castle win the doubles to give Britain a 2-1 lead over Romania in the Davis Cup, and there's still action going on in the St Mellion Golf and on the cross-country course at Bath.